So this video is going to cover some of the different field types that are available in Gridfox for adding to your tables, so you can store different information about each of the records in those tables. So from the Gridfox homepage, we can open up the to-do list app, which has a projects table and a tasks table. There's a couple of simple fields on of type text and date, for instance. So we're going to explore a few more options that we have. So if I select the projects table from the navigation bar, we can see all our different field types in the menu here. So we've already got a text field on for the name, that's a single line of text. We might want to add a text area for a slightly larger space in which to type. So for instance, we might want a project description to be included. We can then add a user field as well, so a project is likely to have an owner, so you can link records to a user within your Gridfox project. So this is the select user field. So when you are assigning records to users, the user must already exist in the Gridfox project, so you'll have to have invited them. So this is covered in the users video. So we may also want to add a money field. So this is maybe something like budget. On a money field, you can configure the currency as well. So currently 3 currencies are supported. So if you do change the currency of a field that's already got data in it, just be aware that that data is not converted. So we don't convert based on a conversion rate. So there's date fields already on here, but just for awareness, there's also a date time field as well, which adds that time component to the date picker. So if we close out the editor, we can then see these new fields in action. So if I create a new project, say software implementation, I can select a start date and an end date as I did previously. But now I can add a project description, budget and owner. So implement new accounting software. You can see this is a slightly larger text box than the name field. I could pick an owner. So since I haven't invited anyone else to the project yet, this is just one option. And I can select a budget as well, which will format as I click out the field. So I'll go ahead and save that. So in another video, we saw how to create parent and child relationships by linking tables. So we're going to create another relationship. So if I go into tables, I can create a new company table. So this maybe has similar fields like we've seen previously, so a text field for the name, but there also may be a URL for company website. So this is one of our supported field types. So unlike the screen builder where you drag in the fields from the side, you can change the field type by clicking on the icon to the left of the field name. So I can select URL. You may want to upload a company logo, so this can be shown around the site so you can identify records a little bit quicker. There's an icon load and an image upload, depending on what you want to use the icon or image for. So images may be used for something like product stock images, whereas icons are a little bit smaller. So there's also, in addition to the text field and text area, there is a rich text field as well, which has functionality where you can style the text and also is much larger. So I might put a company description in here, for instance. We can also support numbers as well. So we may want to know the number of employees within a company and a checkbox to whether they're active or not. So are they an active client? And this would be set as a checkbox type. I can then link the tables together like this. So I go ahead and save that. And let's pick the name as the reference field and save. One of the more complex field types is the formula field. So this can be used to sum data across data within the table or within other tables as well. So for instance, when you're looking at a company, you might want to see the total value of projects that you've done for that company. So rather than looking at all the project records, adding it up manually, you can add a formula field. So if I create a project total value field, and make that a formula field. If I go into the field configuration, I can then specify the formula. So I'd recommend reading the help documentation around formula fields. There's lots of different things that you can do. But what we're going to do is sum the value of projects, budgets for that company. So I use the sum option, and then I want to do the sum of project budget. So this is where I pick the table name and then the field within that table. So in this case, this only works because project is a child table of companies. So I'm going to change this to be returning a money field, and then can check the field by clicking validate. So I can go ahead and close that. And now when I'm looking at a company, I'll be able to see the total value of all the project budgets for that company. So you've probably spotted in the field configuration menus for each of these that there's a few options that are showing up again and again on each type. So if I open up the field configuration for the company name, we can see these three options. So is referenced, is unique, and is required. So not every field type can be set as one of these values. So for instance, a checkbox like the active client cannot be set as is unique, because that would mean that every record in the table must have a unique value for that. So you could only have one record which has active client yes, and another record which has active client no. So it doesn't make sense. These will be disabled as options. So if I go into the field configuration here, we can see that I cannot select is unique. So you can go ahead and set the is unique value. So this means every record in that table should have a unique value in that field. There's also is required, which means that every record should have a value in that field and cannot be saved unless there is a value in this field. So the field configuration can be accessed in the table builder. If I save these changes and go to the screen builder, there is the same menu here within the three dots as well. So you can see that some field types have different options as well. So for instance, I've got a default to today's date on a date field. There are also other default options. For instance, on the user field, you can default it to the user that's currently creating that record. So have a play around with the different field types. I'd recommend reading through the documentation for the different options as to which fields support which functionality. But hopefully you can capture all the information you need in the appropriate field type for your records. So we've covered a few of the different field types you can add in a bit more detail so that you can store different information about your table records.